Welcome to Josh's House of Nerd podcast.
Good morning, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now for tonight's sponsor. Let me ask you a few questions. Do you like to do stuff with fruit? Do you like to think about Gallagher, the watermelon smashing comedian? Do you think about baseball? Well, you are in the right place for thinking those things with Fruit by the Hit Baseball. This is the experience where you have been waiting for to play baseball and whacking the crap out of any fruit you desire, from clementines to key limes to cantaloupes and honeydews, and many more. Fruit by the Hit Baseball. You don't have to be fruity to give it a try. Not a sponsor.
Do you like to do things with fruit?
Yeah.
That's
I
comedy.
Lost it, man.
I recognize that.
I about lost
Who
it.
doesn't like to do things with fruit, John? Come on.
Jeez. Thought that was the vegetable department.
Well, teachers, oh, geesh. I thought you'd know that by now. All right. As you all can hear on today's podcast, we have John and Chris. And we are talking about the month of May's topic, which is movies based on a true story or loosely based on a true story. And this week we were talking about John's pick. We're talking about the 1987 Robinwilliams movie, Good Morning Vietnam, as you probably got from the intro I did. It also stars a young Forrest Whitaker and loosely tells the story of Adrian Cronauer.
Cronauer.
Cronauer, there we go. And about his experience as a DJ for the Armed Forces Radio in Saigon during the Vietnam War. And before we go on, I just wanted to put a shout out there to the Armed Forces, and specifically to those who served in Vietnam. We salute you and your efforts and your sacrifices you made. I say this from the heart, for my father was one of the only surviving members. Well, he wasn't one of the only. He was the only surviving member in his flight school for helicopters that came back to the United States alive. He was one of the last on one of the last airplanes to leave Saigon as well. He went through a lot, and I know all of you did too, that served for us out there, and I say thank you to that. So, now let's talk about that movie, guys. And what'd you think about it?
That was comedy.
Crickets. Yeah. That was
Crickets.
Comedy.
This is a great movie. This is honestly the first time I watched it all the way through. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it is. Nope. It is. I've seen pieces. I've seen parts. I've seen a lot of little funny clips, but I've never actually started this or watched this front to back. So,
Well, then what did you think of it since you're fresh to it?
this is a good movie. This is just flat
yeah.
out. This is just it. It talks about a lot of serious things in there, but the way that they talk about it and that the humor that Robinwilliams brings to it, makes it a little easier to watch, maybe a little bit easier to digest some of the, horrors. And they're not even showing a lot of the horrors, even that I've even heard from my father, heard my father talk about or anything like that. But, it shows, how funny the guy was. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Well, I mean, it shows how funny Robinwilliams definitely is. Like, holy
Yes.
crap, he just blows away. To me, Good Morning Vietnam is one of his, in my opinion, best performances, just for the range that you can see throughout the film, especially, to immediately jump to the end where he's talking to Tuan, or I can't remember his real name. But just his range from being this super comedic, go-lucky guy, not even caring about authority, to just being heartbroken that his friend could do this to him. Like, to me, it just showcases Williams's range fantastically.
I think he fought for that. He fought to show that he had range for a really long time. I mean, that's where you start getting into movies like Awakenings or Patch Adams or the one he did with Matt Damon. Which one is that? The Good Will Hunting, which is just such a good movie. Oh, it's a terrific movie. As everybody thought of him as a comedian.
Yeah. And even he had a couple of flaws. Well, I don't know if I think it's a flop going through. But what's the one he did with it was maybe Cuba Gooding Jr. It was his wife. He was in the afterlife. I can't remember the name of that one.
What dreams may come.
Oh yeah.
What Dreams May Come. Yeah. That one, I don't know if it was necessarily a flop, but it definitely was extremely dramatic role versus his other stuff. So I don't know. That one was a little interesting, but I think you're absolutely right, Josh, and that he probably fought hard to get out of just doing stand up and being an extension of his stand up self on screen.
I mean, the extension of being Mork, for Mork and Mindy. I mean, that was just that alone was, he was stuck in for a really long time and stuff. And then to show him that he is multifaceted, and I think it blew people away that he was so multifaceted. And I knew I remember thinking back in the day that, whoa, Robinwilliams is funny, but he can be serious. When I watched Awakenings or some of the, these other ones, that that's
Dead Poets Society is another one.
Dead Poets Society.
It does a fantastic job.
Yeah, but those are the movies that really broke him out to be pretty much a full-faceted, multifaceted actor.
You mean Fern Gully didn't do that?
Is he in Fern Gully?
Hey,
Don't
say anything. Don't say anything bad about Fern Gully.
Ooh, yeah, ooh, sounds like there's some sensitivities there.
My parents wouldn't let me watch it because my parents were, I'm trying to say this, very anti-environmentalism because they thought it was a hippie movie. Basically, is what it came down to. Since wasn't the bad thing like sludge and people destroying the forest, and
I honestly don't remember enough about it to tell you.
Yeah, well, they banned it, so of course I watched it.
Okay,
I mean, you ban something, your kids are gonna watch it,
of course.
So
of course.
But he's the bat in Fern Gully.
No, I didn't know that. And you're right. My parents banned horror movies, so of course I had to watch them. I mean, what's up with? I get you, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and just
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that we're talking about Robinwilliams and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, he went to Juilliard for theater. I mean, it's his comedy obviously is what got him famous, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But he's done serious roles, lots of them.
Absolutely.
So like, yeah, it I don't know. I guess you know him for kind of what you grew up with, and if you only saw him in comedies, yeah, I mean,
I could see that.
It would seem like he's just a comedic actor, but
I mean,
the other thing too is he's such a great comedic actor.
Yeah, and he sticks in your mind. I mean, it's you won't forget it. Yeah. Like that to me, like the first time you see Robinwilliams in a comedic role, you're not going to forget that. You're not going to forget, if you saw it through Aladdin and the Genie, like you're not just going to oh, wow.
To give you an idea about that, a lot of the stuff that was in Aladdin was not originally written. Some of his songs and some of the things he says, like when Jack Nicholson, when he does the Jack Nicholson face in Aladdin, none of that was written in. He was ad-libbing and they added it in because they just let him go. And that's one thing also I think he is probably one of the best I've ever seen in is an ad-libber. And we just see it in this movie. Because a lot of those scenes are ad-libbed. Not all of them. I understand that, but a lot is. They just said that they would just let him go. And,
think about how hard that is too, because he's trying to portray us. If he's trying to be topical for the time that it is set in, 65, I believe. He can't mention anything after that. He's got to keep it. So I'm guessing he had to study, like, just to try to find the correct, kind of time frame.
And then even then, he made a couple of mistakes. The crock pot, we called it the crotch pot. Crock pot didn't come out till 1971.
Yeah.
So I mean, even then there was still a couple of mistakes. But the theme, before we go too much further, I want to hit on something that Josh said with regards to like Genie being written for Williams, or at least some of the scenes. The same thing happened with Good Morning Vietnam. The original script went through revisions before it even got to Williams. But then supposedly it was not completely rewritten, but retooled for Williams specifically. So, I mean, they went through and wrote it for him.
Yeah,
That's how I
Cronauer
feel.
himself said that it wasn't him on screen, it was Robinwilliams on screen, but
Yeah.
it was he definitely enjoyed it, but it wasn't like true to life or anything.
Yeah, and they tried to keep Cronauer and Williams separate because the director didn't want Williams to pick up, on Cronauer's mannerisms and bring it into the film when he didn't necessarily want those particular mannerisms in Williams's character. As it stands with based on a true story, this one is, definitely loosely based, even according to Cronauer. On his own thing. So, if we're rating it on a 10 system, it's like a 2 or 3, maybe. It's got a lot of real stuff in it. The bombing, apparently he was there for a bombing in Saigon.
He said he
the
saw
whole
it.
setting.
He wasn't like in it, right?
Yeah, he wasn't in it, but he saw it. But the setting and obviously with all that. But other than that, like what he did and stuff was definitely not true to form. And in fact, he said he'd probably, if that really happened, he'd probably get court-martialed long before anything else that Williams did in the film.
He said about the only thing that was really close to what he did was the DJ stuff and stuff like that. Everything outside of that, no. Except for the few things you already mentioned, which is fine. That was one of your stipulations was loosely. That's why you actually even said it.
Yeah.
When you explained it.
Yeah.
So that's why I stated it here in the intro,
Yeah. And it in the film itself, I think either in the bylines or in the description or something like that, it does say, it's based on Cronauer's story. So it mentioned it enough to where I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. It's not 100% obviously, but I think it'll be hard if I didn't want to make it such a narrow target to get like super realistic, true to form films, because it's hard and it doesn't necessarily make great TV.
Well, it might, but it narrows it down for
definitely.
sure.
Yeah.
They like to spice it up and get your attention. A lot of times they'll sometimes move things out of place or, it happened sooner than it did or later than it did, to kind of make it fit into the narrative more and stuff. At least the 2-hour narrative or 3, whatever.
That's 2 hours.
But, one of the things I thought was kind of interesting about this movie, is it does, I really liked it because it does show a little bit about kind of the goings on in Vietnam and kind of a little bit of the army stuff and kind of the feeling around it. I shared that a little bit, that was kind of interesting to see, to hear, I always, since my dad was a helicopter pilot, I always just absolutely adore it when I see, helicopters in movies like that because I knew my dad was flying one, but it's still pretty neat to see. But it makes you wonder though, like in the situation that happened to Williams that got him kicked out at the end of the movie, if that something like that actually had happened, where someone was was a friend with the VC and didn't know.
Oh, I'm sure.
You think so?
I would not be surprised. If and not necessarily. It could have been an innocent type thing where they're actually friends, and the VC is just as conflicted as the army man, or it could be an issue of infiltration. Trying to get buddy up to the occupying force. And get information. So no, that is not unrealistic to me in the slightest.
Yeah, because that was kind of an enticing part of the story. I kind of guessed it from the very beginning in the movie that he was probably part of the Viet Cong because of him pulling him out of that restaurant.
And it wasn't subtle.
No, it wasn't subtle at all. It was pretty heavy.
It's like, hey, let's go. Okay, now bomb goes off. I'm like, oh, great. There's something wrong here. Yeah, I love the barkeep.
And then him to ask so late, him later in the movie to be like, oh, what? He's part of the Viet Cong? I guess that was probably one of the only nitpicks I had of, maybe it is a nitpick, of him not realizing his friend was part of the Viet Cong.
Well, he was, I think that just highlights that his character is an idealist, in my opinion. And he wants to see the positive, and he's looking for the positive, and he's willing to ignore a lot everyone's willing to ignore a lot in favor of friendship or relationship. You know, you can ignore a lot of red flags or crap somebody else does because you really like them or want to spend time with them. So, I mean, it's not really surprising to me that it was a big blind spot for him, because I think, again, idealism and
he wanted to get to know his sister. And...
yeah, that too. Can't break that relationship.
No. But yeah, that's I'm sure it's happened before. I just there's spies and stuff you hear about in all wars and stuff, trying to get the inside track on people and whatever. But I just thought that was an interesting part of the story. Whether it really happened to him or not, that doesn't make it made the story a little bit more enticing. And I really like the cultural part of it. At least, okay, they showed a little bit of the culture towards the end of the movie, him getting to know their family and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was very interesting.
Keep in mind, it wasn't even filmed in Vietnam, though. This was filmed in Thailand.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, this was all filmed in Thailand.
Huh, I missed that, and kind of looking into the movie a little bit. That's interesting. And stuff. But...
So even, I mean, some of the cultural stuff you see isn't necessarily true to form. They did a lot of period work for, the set pieces, especially some of the city of Saigon and stuff like that. But yeah, the countryside and stuff, it's Thailand. My wife had an inkling when she watched it, because she spent a lot of time in Thailand. She's like, hey, this looks really familiar. Just the plants and how they give you a panoramic shot at one point in time. That's very interesting. But it was all filmed in Thailand.
There's a couple of shots there that it could have been Brazil in my mind. Like, it's like all of it is like rainforest, like all rainforests kind of look kind of similar.
Wow, racist against the forest much. I mean, come on.
Rainforests are rainforests, man, no matter what part of the continents they are on.
You need to know your tree species.
Apparently I can't tell a tree species from another.
So what was interesting to me, digging through this film a little bit, is that Cronauer in the film and Williams's role definitely left an anti-war taste in your mouth. And Cronauer basically kind of made a statement against that and said, I'm not anti-war. He was anti-stupidity, is what he said. He's a very active Republican, or at least was back in 2004, because he was part of the Bush-Cheney re-election campaign. But he was kind of very adamant that he wasn't anti-war. Whereas the film, that in my opinion, kind of definitely led to you to, hey, this is not great.
I don't know if I felt like it was anti-war. I might have to disagree a little bit on that. I felt like, I felt like it was just very much reminiscent of the feelings that people had of this ongoing war that they didn't know when it was going to stop. So in the general consensus of war in itself, I didn't feel it the way. I felt very anti-Vietnam War, yes, but not anti-war in general. I felt like there was almost like a difference there, because that was such a
the film's timeline
negatively charged. It was a war that nobody wanted, that we were in. Nobody wanted to be a part of that, even though we were there. At least America didn't want it.
The film's timeline at the point was not even, it hadn't even gone into the full-blown war. They weren't calling it war at that point. It was still the police action and enforcement and so it wasn't even the full-blown war at that time either.
Well, I think
it wasn't. Sorry,
okay. There's an interesting. So yeah, I think the film is. I don't know. Like if you, I guess it depends on where you stand with what anti-war means, because the film attempts to get you to empathize with Ton's character.
Yes.
It's where the emotional climax of the movie basically sits, is the relationship between him and Ton, and the confrontation at the end where they're yelling at each other and stuff like that. the film isn't straight up saying that, the Americans are right. And it's making a very strong statement that there are deaths happening all around and they're all tragedies. And the idea, and everybody who's kind of pro war, or not pro war, let's say pro conflict in the movie is seen as something where they're either trying to keep information out of everybody else's hands and they're trying to run an efficient army, or it's like the two bullies in the bar, who are racist and want the bar to be exclusionary. And it's like, okay, so who's standing on the pro-war side? Like, there's not really a positive representation of the pro-war side. And there's definitely a lot of, hey, everybody that's running this is trying to lie to you. So that's an undercurrent in this entire movie. That basically motivates the main character the entire time, is this, hey, I may just be a DJ, but I want to say the real stuff that's here. I mean, it's not hard hitting. He's still an entertainer more than a journalist, but that seems to be where the film itself is saying. It's not saying that anything that happening during the movie is good. Everything that's good is about just the human relationships between people. Him in the Jeep talking to the guys that are heading out to the front, him taking over the English class, him, at the bar with, the bar owner and everything. It's like, and kind of his interactions with the staff around him at the radio station. And it's like, that's where the movie wants to be at. That's where the movie's showing, kind of a positive, this is an enjoyable thing. Everything else, though, is all portrayed negatively, which I'm not saying isn't negative. I'm just saying that's how the movie's portraying it.
I totally agree with you about the human factor part of it. And like, I think you're dead on where you said at the very end where Ton was talking about, you guys don't see us. You don't see us as people. And I don't know if I worded that exactly like he did, but that was pretty hard hitting, because that was clearly, they showed a lot in the movie of whether this is true or not. This is what they showed in the movie, that, a lot of people just like you said of the two guys in the bar, basically, we don't want you around, even though we're here in your country, we don't want you to be a part of it. We don't, and the thing he brought up of my family, and I'm not sympathizing with the Viet Cong at all. Just want to put that out there. I'm just saying, you don't always look at both sides of the war and people's motivations sometimes, like he said, his motivation at the end was his family had been killed, and, he didn't feel like he had a side. He just felt like he was fighting for his country and the way that he thought it should be.
It's a very common theme in war. I mean, troops dehumanize the other side.
Yes.
Now, they dehumanize them for a ton of reasons. One, propaganda that forces that, because, they're trying to convince you to pull the trigger and kill the other guy, and that, what you're doing is right. And so they'll do everything they can to dehumanize the other side to make you comfortable.
Right.
And then, you're making yourself comfortable with the other guys. And so, how can you justify this in your own head? Well, if they're subhuman, it's not a big deal. Or if they're really bad, it's not a big deal. And so I think it's a very common theme in war.
You saw it
happens in
in
every
World War
war.
II and, like
World War One and Afghanistan and everywhere.
Yeah.
I think every war has it. And it's just partly propaganda, partly coping, partly... war is horrible, in my opinion. It's absolutely horrendous.
It is horrendous. It's an absolute horrendous thing and stuff. There's nothing ever good about it. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
I mean, if you have to defend yourself, you defend yourself, and you get into a whole massive gray area. And I think Crit made an excellent point into where the film found a place it wanted to be and stuck there. And I think it had potential to go off on a massive tangent about war in general.
But it focused on the people, like he was saying, which I think is a wonderful take on this, because, that guy was part of the Viet Cong, but he was also part of that family. And you really got to know that family a little bit and get to kind of like care for them almost. You know, you cared for Robinwilliams and how much he was getting into that family, and for that English class, you loved those people. They were hilarious, especially that old guy. Oh my goodness. He was amazing. I loved him every time he got him on there, especially with the fruit part at the end of, you know, oh my goodness. I just couldn't stop laughing at that guy. He's so amazing. But anyways, it was more of a human story than it was more of a human story than it was almost a war story.
Yeah, I think for me, what the movie got right was those relationships. I think the him kind of, it's a whole, like, he's the rebel, he's bucking authority, he's, sticking it to the man, and the man being humorless, and lame and all these other, kind of adjectives for, his command structure above him and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter as far as the movie goes. I mean, it needed an antagonist, so it created one, and it didn't. And I think that's the interesting thing, is that it didn't create one out of the Viet Cong per se,
Mm-hmm.
like, not explicitly. Like, it was always about the military brass and kind of, what they wanted from the radio versus what
No, they
the
just
men in
still
the
happen to
field
be a part
needed,
of it.
or yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically a backdrop to it. Now, it definitely pushed the narrative forward a bit, but at the same time, like I said, I think it's more, when the movie works, it works really well based on the comedy bits, but those could kind of just be YouTube videos at this point. Like, if they were made now, it'd just be YouTube, and split up. The relationship between the people was pretty good, and that's compelling. The I don't think it really had a message. Um, I didn't really get like an underlying message, like, here's what we're trying to say with this movie, with this piece of art. I don't think it really was setting out to do that. And it was just like, we're just going to tell a good story,
Yeah,
which
I
I think
agree with that.
they did a pretty good job at that. I don't think there was anything. I didn't really pick up on anything other than that. Like, it's just a bit of an anti-war bit, but it
Mhm.
doesn't really go anywhere with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's basically it. I mean, it really doesn't have anything else.
Granted. Are we out of?
But a very enjoyable movie for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed the full 2 hours of this movie.
Yeah.
It almost went by so fast. I was enjoying this movie so much as I was getting ready for this podcast, and and the interesting part is I was able to work and watch and prepare some of the stuff I've been and I could do it all. It was very fluid and watch because I could follow it very easily, and that's the cool thing. It's got a very easy plot to follow, very straightforward. And then there's these big comedic parts that are just wonderful to listen to. Him just joking around and stuff. And anyways, I found it quite nice to work to as I was watching it and working at the same time. Very.
So
cool.
also noticed that a lot of the runtime was montage with, period music over it. Like, that was a lot of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like a 2-hour runtime, and like a lot of the movie is that. So I think that contributes to it not really having a ton to say, like, about the Vietnam War or about anything else like that. It's not really saying anything, because I think in its 2-hour runtime, it's using a lot of fill.
Do you
And
think
I'm
it's
not
a
saying
negative?
the filler is.
Yeah.
I don't think the filler is bad. I just
Okay.
think that's what happened. Is that it's when it comes to the plot,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of this runtime is filler.
Do you think
It's
it's
not
they were
really
just trying to
about the
set
plot.
atmosphere, and that's why they felt like they needed to add the filler? Or I mean,
I'm not sure. It could be a nostalgic take, because you got to think
Mhm.
about when this was made.
It's
A
87.
lot of 87. A lot of the movie-going audience. I mean, the music that is being used in this film, is going to be very much their music.
this would have been my mom's music. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of, like, leaning on the music, leaning on the comedy bits, which don't really interact too much with the rest of the plot, in my opinion. So, like I said, I don't. it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I think it's a good story, and I think it's a very enjoyable movie. It's not deep. I don't think it's very deep, which is fine. I'm just observations about the movie. It doesn't
Mhm.
it doesn't really address anything majorly interesting. Like, it doesn't stick with me after I watch it. Right?
Right.
It doesn't make me sit there and go, well, how do I feel about the Viet Cong? Like, it doesn't really raise that. Um, it humanizes one, and but then it really doesn't do anything with it, which is fine. Again, not a big deal, but that's
Right.
just my observations about it, right?
That makes sense. I think I can agree with a lot of that as well.
Me too.
And I think that's kind of all I've got personally, without delving into the Vietnam War, which is a whole nother can of worms. Not necessarily in the scope of this podcast.
Yeah, this is a comedy. We're gonna have plenty of chances
Yeah.
to bring that up if we want to in
Yeah.
other genres.
Absolutely.
I don't think a comedy. I think a comedy can say deep things about something, but I think it's okay to just have a comedy be a comedy. It doesn't have to be.
Agreed. Are you guys ready to move to ratings?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
I feel it's kind of widened down, so I can start. I'm gonna give this 8 out of 10 bowls of pho, just because I wanted to say the word pho on mic, and I would buy this. I would buy this movie. I can definitely see the rewatchability of it. I'd watch it maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah. I'd watch with my mom.
Would
Good
you?
wholesome family film. Yeah. Aish.
Yeah,
in
and
between the place blowing up and no, it is. I think it'd be a good one. I would watch this with my mom as well.
and I'll give it 15 out of 19 pictures of ankles.
Ooh, crit.
I love the bartender.
Yeah, the bartender was great.
That is a
It's
little
so
risky,
well
buddy.
done.
I mean, after the bombing, they kind of left him out of the film, but I think something was lost from that.
Oh, they needed
It
more.
was
of
so
that
great.
guy.
He reminded me a little bit of George Takei.
Okay,
Just a little bit.
okay.
That's funny.
Great stuff.
I have a
All right,
picture of
Josh,
him in
what's
my
your-
office.
What's your picks?
My picks? Oh, you guys. Let's get into those. Let's see. This one was, I just want to say, my picks were tough. It was tough. I have 21 movies listed here of movies that I could have picked for this. 21.
All of them from the Star Wars universe.
There's not one Star Wars one here.
Well,
Wow,
that one
I'm
Star
surprised.
Trek one where they travel back in time, Journey Home. I mean, set in San Francisco.
Because it's based on a true
based on
story.
real life.
In real life, yeah.
Loosely, how loosely are we
Loosely.
Yeah, how
talking?
loose are we
Yeah,
going
come on.
here, guys? I would have
mean-
totally picked different movies if we're going that loose.
Then it's just a free for all.
Oh, I had a hard time picking some movies here. There's a lot of really good movies in this genre.
As long as you didn't pick Titanic.
No, I can't bring myself to watch that one anymore, dude. I've seen it one too many times already. So
So what you're saying is
safe there.
I should put that on my list for next week.
damn, you better not. I'm gonna be sniffing for it now, Crit, on the next one.
I know. I'm pretty good at hiding though.
Oh god, that one. I heard it too many times in Brazil, and every time I have to watch that movie, it just brings up those
Yeah,
memories.
but all right. Before you get to your pick, though,
Okay,
I just want to
okay.
put it out there.
What's that?
Actively watching so that you can participate in a conversation about the details of the movie can change the movie for you.
That's true, because that happened with Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Exactly.
Because I didn't like it the first time. There's a lot of movies
I'm-
I didn't really care for the first time that I've watched it the
I'm
second
going
time after
to-
talking to it.
Going to conveniently ignore that.
Okay.
I already told you that on the podcast that I didn't like it the first time I watched it. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I was saying I'm going to conveniently ignore what Crit said in
Oh.
regards to Titanic.
Oh, okay.
I think we could have some interesting conversations about class.
Yes, I agree with you. I really do agree
And
with you.
I know a really cool Titanic song. It's great.
There's actually a couple different songs in there, like the
It's not by
shanty they
Celine
do and the.
Dion, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Anyways.
All right.
moving on
Yes,
with your
there are
pick.
aspects of that movie. I understand. It's just...
Well,
anyways. I'm going to be watching for it now, Crit.
I know.
I'm watching you, dude.
Yeah, it's tempting. Let's go.
All right. So, movie number 1. This movie will get you jazzed up when you see it. Movie number 2. This movie takes you to a place that can be put on a cracker. Number 3. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the movie.
So not planes, trains, and automobiles. Okay.
What was the second one?
Something about a cracker.
This movie takes you to a place that could be great on a cracker.
The heck? All right. 2 or 3 is what I'm definitely leaning towards.
All right, then let's do 2.
Okay. Honestly, 2 or 3 are one of the ones I want you to really pick. All right. Number 1. This movie will get you jazzed up when you see it. It's the movie Green Book with Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot. Number 3.
Ooh, that would have been an interesting conversation.
Yes, I know. That's why I picked it. It would have been a really good conversation. Number 3, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the movie, The Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman.
Oh. That's another good one. Gary Oldman is amazing.
Number 2, the movie that you picked. This movie takes you to a place that could be great on a cracker. It's Apollo 13 because they're going to the moon and it's made of cheese.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow,
Oh,
that's a
yes.
deep reference.
Yeah. That's stretch. Yeah, I love this because I love space. I love everything about space and the astronaut program. Oh, it's gonna be great.
I really like this movie. You know, matter of fact, I've never seen The Darkest Hour. This is actually, I think it might be the second time I put it on one of my lists. I can't remember if it was this one or if it was Dunkirk, but it was one of them. But yeah, I thought all 3 of them could be a good topics to talk about. So, but like I said, number 2, number 3, and stuff are. I hadn't seen Darkest Hour. That's one I wanted to watch. Number 2 was one of my favorites, and stuff. So, and then I thought number 1, great topic to talk about. So, anyways, I'm glad you guys picked it. So, I look forward to watching it next week and stuff, and talking about this movie because there's still a lot in there about their struggle and their strife and a lot of the things they go through. So, and that's kind of what I thought it would be interesting to talk about. So, anyways, anything else you guys want to share before we end this thing? You guys good?
I'm good.
All right.
Good.
Awesome. Well, to everybody out there listening, thank you for supporting our channel, and please click the like button if you like what you've heard. And to everyone out there, I just totally lost my train of thought.
I was wondering, like, wow, this is a really
I was like, ooh,
pause. Whoa.
Really long dead
What's going
pause.
to happen here?
a heavy pause.
I'm going to do this again. And to everybody out there listening, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. Good night.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe and check out our other nerdy videos.